Hey, how's it going everyone? Welcome back to Keeping Fish Simple and welcome to the fish room. So in today's video, we are going to be doing a full fish room tour. Now, I'm going to be taking you guys through the whole fish room, showing you guys pretty much everything that's going on here. A few tanks are going to be a bit boring, so I won't bother showing those. All the breeding projects, all the things I've been working on in here, and I've been putting off making this video for a while. There's a few reasons. Firstly, these guys take a long time to make, and this video is going to end up probably being like quite long, so be prepared for that. The other thing too is, as a fish breeder and keeper, especially with putting this stuff on YouTube, you do get a little bit insecure about certain tanks and certain things that are going wrong. Yeah, so sometimes you just kind of put off making things because nothing in here is always 100% perfect. So today you'll see that some stuff will be going really well, some stuff won't be going good at all, and I'm just going to show you guys everything unedited, and hopefully you guys enjoy it. For all you guys who don't know, I breed tons of different fish in this fish room. I sell a lot of them to shops and wholesalers, and I also sell them down below to you guys. If you are in Australia, you can buy my fish if you're in selected states. If you're overseas, you cannot buy my fish. I get so many emails of people asking to buy my fish, and I'm really chuffed that people want to buy my fish, but unfortunately, I cannot ship my fish overseas, and there's no point emailing me. I'm not going to be able to do it. If you still want to support the channel and you're overseas, I do have some merchandise available down below. Don't feel like you have to do any of that. You guys just liking these videos and watching these videos and subscribing down below really helps me a lot. But without any further ado, let's go have a look at the fish room. Okay, so you can see we've got the two sides of the fish room. I have 18 of these 4-foot tanks, and I have 46 or something of these 2-foot tanks. So over here is like the breeding and hatching side of the fish room, and then over here is the grow out kind of side of the fish room. Now, it's not perfectly organized. I mean, it could be more organized, but it kind of just runs itself. I mean, fish breed and I find spots to put them, and it kind of all just works somehow. So this is the breeding side. We'll come over here after I'm done showing you what's going on over here. I think we'll start off by coming over here to the fry system. Now, as you guys have seen in previous videos on my channel, this right here is my fry system, and it's definitely in due need of a makeover. Now, when I first set this fry system up, it worked pretty well, but I actually added some fish down below, so I do have some lemon blue eyes and a couple of spare rams in here. The problem with that is they were creating too much debris and it was clogging up the pump. And the way this system works is I have these trays. So if you come over here, you can see I've got these trays, and they're suspended up on the top of the aquarium. You can see how I built them. What happens is water gets pumped in here, that's sucked in from the bottom of the tank, and it overflows out the back. And what that does is it circulates fresh water throughout this box 24/7. I also do have these air pumps here that just kind of like make some surface tension and oxygenate the water. But if that clogs up, this box can go really dirty really quick and can kill all the fry in there. So I've been having problems with that. I also do have this tank over here that's set up for the same thing, but I actually haven't needed it because I haven't been breeding that many cichlids, and if I filled up this fry system, I wouldn't have anywhere to grow out all those fries. So I really only need one side. Now, at the moment, I've got some wrigglers in here. These are just some black ram wrigglers. So these are from my blue black rams. And I also have some more wrigglers over here. These are just some wrigglers of some rams. And then I have a really teeny tiny batch of black rams in here as well. These are all blue black rams in here at the moment. I've been really focusing on breeding a lot of rams. And the reason for that is they sell really well on my website, and they're pretty easy for me to make these days, and I can sell like hundreds of them to a wholesaler at a time, and they're always in high demand, and have been something that I've been kind of a little bit successful with. So I've been sticking with it, and it's been going really well. That's what's happening over here in this fry system. You can see the room's a little bit messy at the moment, and that's just because it's literally so small. So this room's only 16 meters squared, and there's really not a lot of space in here, so a lot of the stuff does get crowded. Over here on this rack, you can see that I have a pair of Bettas. Now, I did try breeding these about a month ago, and I tried 2 or 3 times in a video. They didn't actually breed successfully, and I accidentally deleted all the footage to that video, so I've got to go through and redo that. But I've got this beautiful male Dumbo Betta here. He's like a pink Dumbo male. I've shown him before. and I've got this female one over here as well. I will be breeding these hopefully in an upcoming video, but we'll see how we go. I really don't have a lot of space to grow out Bettas at the moment, and I really only want to do it just for the content and just for a bit of fun. They were a little bit annoying last time I bred them because I just had so many. So yeah, that's what's over on this rack. I think what I'm going to do now is just show you guys what's going on in all these big tanks. So these are all my grow out tanks, and some of the tanks are actually being used for breeding. So up in this first tank, I have a bunch of black ram grow outs. Now I've actually been selling these guys, and these are kind of like the dregs left over from the last batch. So you can see here, we've got quite a few males in this batch. There's probably only about 5 or 6 of them left in this tank. I also in this tank have a colony of L333s that I've been breeding. There's actually a male in that cave there trapping a female. I think there's 6 of them in this colony, but they have been breeding, which is great. You can see this guy's stuck his tail out. You don't really see a lot of them too often. And then up the back here, I'm also growing out some long-nosed whiptails to breed in a future project. So I've got 5 of them. I'm not too sure when they're going to start breeding. They've grown a lot and they're getting quite big, but they're quite a freaky looking fish, and yeah, I'm excited to see them breed at some point in the future. Down in the tank below, I showed you guys this one before. This is an old fry hatchery that I'm going to dismantle at some point in the future. I have quite a few potted plants in here. I'm going to use these for aquascaping or something like that in the future as well. I also have quite a few Longfin bristlenose in here. So you can see there's an albino there. I have some commons, and I also have some super reds in here that I'm growing out to breed in the future. So they're kind of just in here for the moment at a time. You can see there's one there. There's a super red up the back. There's another one down here, and yeah, they're just kind of scattered throughout this aquarium. Down below, there's nothing in this tank. I had some corys in there, but I've harvested those and sold them since, so yeah. Now moving on over to this aquarium, you can see in here we have quite a lot of rams. In here we have a ton of German blue rams. I'm not too sure how many there are in here. These guys are actually for sale down below. So you can see they're nice and young, ready to all breed. They've actually been spawning in here, and they're all definitely ready to go. You can see they'll come up to the top if I do that. How cool is that? So yeah, these guys are quite beautiful. Still yet to get some color, but as they get older, they're definitely going to get some of those nice blues and blacks on them and look amazing. So you can see a couple of them there. Fantastic looking fish, and they've been really, really easy for me to breed at the moment. I also do have a breeding group of royal whiptails in here. I've got 2 females and a male. You can see that's the female, I think, there. And they haven't spawned for me in a bit, so I'm wondering if these rams have kind of been putting them off a little bit and stopping them from spawning. But nonetheless, I've had a few spawns, but I haven't had much success with them. Hopefully in the future I will have success. I'm kind of waiting until I get into a bigger space before I try breeding some of these whiptails, because I'm just so occupied with the rams at the moment. Down below, I'm not too proud of this tank. It's a little bit messy, but in here we have some angelfish grow outs. So we've got some Manacapurus in here. You can see those guys here. And we also have some bristlenose in here as well that have just been growing out. So a little bit of a dirty tank. It's about time I take this tank down and try and sell the fish that are in it. This is kind of what happens to these bottom tanks. They just kind of turn into grow out tanks. They kind of get a little bit neglected, but when I mean neglected, I just throw food in there. I don't really try and consciously keep this one super tidy because it's not always in my sight, and it doesn't always need to be tidy. Like, all the fish in here are doing really well and healthy, so I'm not too worried. But I produced a ton of these Manacapurus, and these are kind of like the dregs of what I did produce. So I'm not producing them anymore, at least in this room. Maybe in the next room I will, but they're just not really viable for these 4-foot tanks for me to grow out because they get too big and I can't really keep a lot of them in here. So to have success with angelfish breeding, you probably need big IVC like grow out containers or totes, because they really benefit from having a lot of water volume, and keeping a lot of them in a 4-foot tank just doesn't work in my opinion. Next door to that, we also have some larger Manacapurus that I'm just growing out to adult size. So I'm keeping these in case I want to breed them again, which I don't think I will. And I just kind of sometimes keep angelfish and grow them out to adult size and sell them for a little bit more to some shops. So that's what's going on in here. There's also some bristlenose growing out down here as well, but nothing too exciting. Upstairs, we also don't have anything exciting. I just have to go through and clean this tank out with the last few fish that are in it. I have, looks like a pair of Praecox rainbows in here and a few sterbais, but that's about it. So I don't know where the sterbais are. There might be some. If I lift up this moss, there might be a few sterbais, but yeah, you can see them there. But what I have to do is just come through this tank, give it a clean out, and get it ready for the next batch of fish that are going to go into it. If we come upstairs, we have some stuff that's a little bit more exciting. So in this tank up here, this is another 4-foot tank. I've just added a batch of blue-black rams. So you can see these guys are very, very small, but you can see already you can differentiate the blues from the blacks, and you can also see some little midnights coming through. So when you breed these guys, you probably get about 20% midnight, and then you probably get about 40% blue black and 40% blue. So you can see them all in here. There's actually quite a lot of them in this batch. This is a little bit of a bigger batch. Yeah, it's super cool to see them in here. They all kind of crowd up in these corners, and you can see that there's no one else really in here. There's a few up the back over there, but besides that, these are the only guys that are in here. Up next door to that, we also have just this tank full of Java moss, and this is a tank that I just need to clean out again. There was a few Sterbais in here, but not many more in there now, so there's maybe 1 or 2 Bettas left in here as well, which I'll just sell to someone else. But down below that, I have a bit of a concoction of different things that are left over in the fish room. So I have these turquoise rainbows, which I've been keeping to grow out and to breed in the future. So you can see I've got a spawning mop in there to see if they're laying eggs. There's also a Boesemani in there for some reason, so I have to take him out so there's no crossbreeding. And there's also some of these leftover gold marble angels, which I might keep to breed as well, but I'm just growing them out to adult size. There's just a ton of moss in here as well. Nothing too crazy in here, just a few angelfish and just some rainbowfish as well. And then in the tank below, we have a huge batch of peppermint bristlenose that I'm growing out. So you can see on this log here, we have tons of them growing out. Now I pulled these guys in a video previously. There's probably about 200 of these guys in here. I mean, if I lift up this piece of wood here, you'll see there's just tons of them throughout. So this isn't the best camera angle, but it's a little bit of a darker tank, so you can see, yeah, just the amounts of them like coming off this log as well. So yeah, just a ton of peppermint bristlenose in here, nothing too crazy, but I'm glad to have a lot of them in the fish room at the moment. So that's this side of the fish room. Now if we come over here to this side of the fish room, you can see up here we just have some more blue ram grow outs, a bit of a smaller batch. Here, we'll just do this, you can see how many there are in here. So just some blue rams up here, and there's also some peppermint bristlenose growing out for future breeding as well. So I've actually bred all these guys, but I'm keeping them as future brood stocks. Down below I have some gold marble angels, which are just growing out as well. These are leftovers from a previous batch as well, so I've got to take these to a wholesaler or something and get rid of them because they've been in this tank for too long. I've got another batch of these rams over here. These ones are a little bit less receptive, but there's also some big bristlenose in the bottom of this tank as well. But here are all the blue rams, if they even come up. Yeah, they're just blue rams. And then up above, I have a batch of blue black rams, which are pretty much ready to be sold. So there's actually quite a lot of midnights in this batch. You can see if I do this, we'll get them all up to the top. So you can see the blues, like those are blues there. You can see blue blacks there, and then midnights there. So they're super dark ones. Now, I will have a few midnights available on my website, probably only 1 or 2 pairs because I need to keep them for breeding because I'm trying to line breed these guys, but you can see they're super beautiful and such a weird looking fish. Like, it's amazing what people can do with breeding these days. Next door we have a little bit of a dirty tank. There's tons of hydra in here because I've been overfeeding baby brine shrimp, but this is just another batch of blue black rams. It's a bit hard to focus because of all the hydra, but nothing too fancy. And then down below this is another dirty tank, and there's just a small batch of blue black rams in here as well. Yeah, it's a bit hard to record in here, so sorry about that, but you can see them all there. Up the back, or just chilling out behind that pipe. So that's the blue black rams. And that's about it for the grow outs in the rooms. There's not much else. I know I didn't show all the tanks, but the other tanks just literally have like moss in it and it's not too exciting. So you can see lots and lots of rams, not many corys, not many rainbow fish or anything like that. So I'm going to be showing you guys all the breeding tanks now and what's going on over on this side of the fish room. So this is where I do all the breeding. This is where there's tons of babies as well and lots of breeding colonies, and you'll see all the different species that I plan on breeding in the next fish room. So in this first tank here, you can see we have a ton of these Boesemani rainbow fish. This is a brand new breeding colony for me. You can see I've thrown a spawning mop in here. There used to be some L134s, but I've moved them into a separate aquarium since then, and these guys are just left in here. I've been trying to breed them, but I'm probably going to move this colony soon to make space for some other plecos or something in this tank. Attached to this, I also have a breeder box full of these L333 plecos. So I've actually got 30 of them in here, and I pulled these in a previous video as well. You can see they're all doing good. They're starting to get color. They've been eating a ton of baby brine shrimp, and this breeding box has worked really well for this species to hatch them out and rear them up for the first month or so. So you can see lots of them throughout here, all chilling out. Down below, I just have some leftover Apistogrammas that kind of need to grow up a little bit more before I sell them. These are just some fire gold reds, and apparently not many people in Australia have these, so I don't know why, There are a few available on my website if you guys go and have a look, but I plan on breeding a few more batches of these. So these are kind of like the leftovers I've been selling out of here. There's also a few peppermint bristlenose in here as well. Sorry for the glare, but down here in this bottom tank, I also have a breeding colony of these yellow cherry shrimp. A lot of them hide in this big ball of moss that you can see. So you can see quite a few of them in here. They've been doing all right. I need to go through and cull some of the, drab looking ones and try and keep some of the really yellow ones. But it's been a decent line of shrimp. Like, I've had quite a few really good looking ones coming through, so I'm not too disappointed, but I definitely could have some better looking shrimp from this colony. These are available as well. They're not too expensive, they're quite cheap. I don't think that these are really an expensive type of shrimp, so I just keep these guys down here because they're in the end tanks, so it kind of does get neglected and it's easier to keep something that doesn't need a lot of attention in this tank. That's the yellow cherry shrimp tank there, and in here we have a breeding colony of these crystal red shrimp. So you can see the little guy at the front here. I started off with about 8 to 10 of them, and since then they've kind of been breeding pretty prolifically. I don't know how many are in here, probably about 50. They've been doing well. I've had a few struggles with them at the start, but since then not too many struggles. I would like to see more babies, but I don't think they breed as prolifically as cherry shrimp do. They're a little bit more slower at breeding, and I think that's just my observation. So I could be wrong there, like I could be completely wrong, but in my experience, these guys aren't as prolific, and they do breed, but not in massive, massive numbers like the cherry shrimp do. So I do have a few of these available down below as well. These guys are pretty interesting and a great little nano tank species. In the tank above, I also have some really exciting stuff in here. So this tank's a little bit dirty, but that's not all bad because there's actually quite a few really cool fish in here. So you can see there's some L201 growouts here, so there's quite a few hydra in here, as you can see. There's also some guys up the back of the tank that you can see there. There's a mix of all different types of plecos in here, so some L333s, L201s, and L397s. Maybe if I lift up this, you might see something. There we go. So you can see the L333s there. I've just dirtied up the tank a little bit trying to show you them, but they're in here and there's quite a few up behind that sponge filter. Now up above from them, we have probably one of my favorite tanks in the entire fish room, and up here we have my colony of L46. So these guys are getting very close to breeding age. You can see there's quite a few big ones in here, hopefully a male and a female, but I'm not too sure yet. So I'm still waiting to see what sexes I have of these guys. I've taken them out a few times, but they're still a bit young and it's still too hard to tell if they're males and females. I do have 4 in this colony. So you can see there's 3 tails. There's also a 4th that I can't show you that's underneath the leaf, but that's the L46 colony in here. And then I also have these turquoise rainbows up above, which are just kind of like the dither fish. I did breed these guys and you saw the offspring before. Next door to the L46s, I also have another colony of these chocolate zebra plecos. So these are the L270s and they've been breeding quite a lot for me. I just had a recent spawn, and in that spawn I only had 6 fry that I pulled out of the cave, which is quite annoying. And then the male trapped the female straight away after that and had another spawn, but that spawn got overrun by some snails and I'm a little bit frustrated about that. So in the future fish room, I'm going to try not to have any snails in these pleco breeding tanks. But I don't know how many are in this colony, maybe 8 or 9. I think there used to be 10, but I lost 2 for some reason. I think it was aggressive males trapping females. I haven't lost a few for about 3 or 4 months now. This colony's been doing fantastic ever since. You can see here we have the fry that I was talking about before. So I keep them in these breeder boxes. These guys are brand new. They've still got their yolk sacs and they're probably going to eat in a few days time, but that's what's going on in this little breeder box. I also, next door to that, also have some of these L270s in here as well. I pulled these in a video previously. These guys are almost ready to go into their own grow out tank as well. I've probably got about 10 of these L270s in grow out. I'd like that to be a little bit higher, but for the moment in time, that's okay. I also have this colony of L46 next door to that. These guys are a little bit younger. I've got 5 in this colony, so I did have a smaller one in the colony that I showed you before that I transferred into this one because I didn't want it to get bullied and not eat, and I haven't had any issues with them really at all since I had that problem a couple of months ago with one of them getting stuck under a log, but he's been doing fantastic ever since and hasn't had any issues and hasn't looked back. They're also in here with these dwarf neon rainbows that I've been breeding, and yeah. And I guess while I'm up here, I'll quickly show you this tank as well. This is the L397 tank, and I've had some breeding in here. There's actually a male trapping a female in there, but the past 3 spawns, the male, whenever it's got the eggs, has just eaten the eggs, and yeah, it's been a little bit frustrating and I haven't had any success with it, but that's a little bit frustrating. I also have these long-nosed farowella in here, these like just some twig catfish. I've got 5 in here as well, waiting to be bred, probably in the next fish room as well. Now down below in this tank, you can see we have the Amazon aquascape from a previous video. I've had a little bit of problems. Now, nothing wrong with the fish, but the L134s that were added into this tank made up their own mind and decided that they would try and aquascape the tank how they wanted it to look. So you can see they've misplaced a lot of sand. They're all in these caves and doing fantastic, but they've uprooted a lot of the plants, and you can see none of the botanicals are even like above the water anymore. They're all buried underneath the sand. The neon tetras are doing great in here as well. Like, they're doing really well, and the tannins look really good in here, but the L134s covered up everything that I've tried to put a lot of effort into and really disrupted the tank and ruined it. But I think we might try and adjust this aquascape in a future video, and I don't know what that one's doing over there. These neon tetras have always swam a little bit funny for me. You can see him there, I just think he's a funny swimmer, but yeah. Now down in these 2 tanks, I have something really, really cool to show all you Aussie viewers, and in these 2 tanks, I have some pea puffers. So a lot of people don't know, but in Australia, these pea puffers are super, super rare. Now, they've been getting spread out across the nation for a little while. Some guys have been breeding a lot of them, and they've become a little bit more available, but they're still quite pricey. I've actually got 10 of these guys at the moment. I've split them up into 2 groups of 5. Hopefully I get 2 males and 8 females between the 2 colonies, but you can see there's 5 in here. They've been eating lots of blackworms. I've been feeding them, and they've been doing super good. So there's 5 in here, and then over here we have another 5 as well in the other tank. I know in the States these guys are super common, but over here they can't be imported, and because of that they're super rare. I will be trying to breed these in the future, and yeah, I'm definitely gonna make it a priority to try and get these guys to start spawning soon. Up here in this tank I have the original brood stock of the Boesemani rainbowfish. They're up here with some L134 grow outs. So these guys are still growing out to breeding age. I've got 7 or 8 of them in here, and hopefully they start breeding soon. I think they're still about a year away. They take a little bit longer than some of the other plecos, but you can see them all there. They're really, really pretty fish, and they look super good. I might keep them, I might sell them. I'm probably gonna try and breed them, and we'll see how we go with that. And then next door to that, we also have the colony of L201s that I've been breeding. I actually got some eggs out of these guys yesterday, and I've been having the same issue with the snails and with the parents kicking out the eggs or eating them. What I've decided to do is pull these eggs out, and you can see they're up here. Now, they've actually been doing really well. This is the tank water that they're originally in, so they haven't had any problems with that, and I've been using some methylene blue in here as well to stop fungus, and these eggs seem to be developing well, so we'll see how we go with this method. I also have 5 of these red lizard whiptails in here growing out that I do plan on breeding in the future as well. Down here, I've set up another tank for my Apistogramma Agassizii fire golds. These guys are the future brood stock for the line that I'm breeding. I've added lots of caves. You can see there's one up the back there. That would be the male. But yeah, I've been using some RO water in here, getting the pH really low, getting the tannins really low, and trying to get these guys to spawn again. I shouldn't have any problems with these. These guys should be a little bit easier to breed because they're not imported and they're my brood stock, so we'll see how I go with these. Now in this tank next door, I have something that's pretty exciting and something that I've wanted to show you guys for a bit. As you would know, I've been breeding a lot of blue rams, like the German blue rams, and I've been breeding a lot of blue black rams. Now, I've also wanted to start breeding some gold rams in the new fish room, and I also want to start breeding some electric blue rams. As you can see in this tank, we have 3 of these blue black rams. These are all females, and I've been trying to fatten them up for hopefully spawning. And in here, I also have a male gold rams. As you can see on this tank, I have a queue because I don't want these guys mixing with my actual real brood stock. What happens is when you bring in these gold rams, they normally have a lot of issues like fish tuberculosis and just wasting away diseases that I definitely do not want to introduce into my blue-black line. So I've been doing my very best to keep these guys completely separated from all the other fish in the fish room. I haven't been using any of the same nets, any of the same equipment, and I haven't even been putting my hands in this tank until these guys hopefully spawn. So I've got 1 male gold ram, 3 female blue-black rams. And the reason I'm breeding them with the blue black rams is firstly I want to see what kind of fish I get out of it, I want to strengthen the bloodline of this fish as well. But the other thing too is there's just no gold ram females available in Australia really. I'm sure there's some somewhere, but all the shops that I've been to that have them, it's always just males. So I've kind of taken matters into my own hands here and try to do this. What's going to be happening is if I do get a spawn, I'll pull the spawn out, hatch it myself, and then what I'm going to do after that is probably just literally take all these fish, sell them to another shop, and then completely nuke the tank with some bleach and act like the fish had never been here, and hopefully raise the brood stock up, and I won't have to worry about that fish tuberculosis coming into the room. While I've got you, I'll show you guys as well. Here are all the males that I've got. So you can see there's a huge queue here. I've been worming them and treating them for all different types of diseases. They look really good actually, but yeah, breeding them is going to be a challenge, and I'm going to try and keep you guys updated with how this goes in the future. I also have these electric blue rams that I'm quarantining as well to hopefully breed in the future. That quarantining is so important. I can't have these guys mixing with my actual brood stock. Here in this tank, I have some peppermint bristlenose growouts, and I also have 10 L397s growing out in here as well. You can see some of the peppermints here. You can see a lot more of the peppermints here. So these guys are actually available on my website, some of these peppermints. I don't know about these L397s, whether I'm going to keep them, whether I'm going to sell them at this point. So I also have 3 or 4 breeding tanks of these blue-black rams. And what I do is I normally add a pair or 2 per tank. You can see up the back here, I actually have a pair on a spawn at the moment, but that spawn's infertile, so I haven't bothered taking it out, and they'll probably just end up eating that and spawning again soon. There's a male here, there's probably another female somewhere in here, but it's not worth going around and showing you guys all these tanks, but that's what I do when I breed them. Down here, I have another colony of shrimp. This is just another colony of these blue dream shrimp. I've been selling quite a lot of them. They're actually very popular. I don't really look at this tank too much. I don't really do any water changes or anything like that. I just kind of let these guys be, and they all breed in here, and yeah, they do really well. Down next door, I have a little bit of a failed project because I didn't really get lucky when I bought these fish, but in here I have some Hillstream loaches. These are actually pretty rare in Australia as well. There's also Borneo suckers over here, but no real Hillstream loaches. The reason I'm unlucky is I think I got 6 males. Yeah, I'm not even joking. I think I did actually get 6 males. I haven't had any breeding in here. I'm looking for females. Like, I haven't seen any available in shops. So this is kind of a little bit of a fail at the moment. Until I get those females, yeah, it's just a little bit annoying. Next door, I also have quite a few Similis growouts, and you can see them all at the back there. I also have some French Blue Star endlers in here as well. So there's also one there that might need to be culled, but these are just French Blueies. Just cool little tiny endlers that I use for dither fish in some tanks, but not a real focus of mine. In this tank up here, I have the neon tetras that I was quarantining a few months ago. I'm planning on breeding these at some point just for a bit of fun, but I've just been keeping them in here. You can see a few of them do have that neon tetra disease still, so I've been pulling them out when they get that, but other than that, we're trying to get, you know, the best quality neon tetras that we can in this tank. And then I also have a few more peppermint bristlenose growouts in here too. So you can see them all here underneath the wood. Up here we have a pair of Discus. These guys are lemon and clementine. This tank might look a little bit dirty, but this does get water changes every second day. The reason it looks dirty is I just haven't cleaned the glass. I probably should. And there's clementine on the right, and there's lemon on the left. They have still been spawning, but I haven't really been putting a lot of effort into trying to breed them. I don't really have anywhere appropriate that I can grow them out, and I don't really plan on breeding Discus in this room for the moment in time. Up here, I have a breeding group of these Dark Knight Rams. So I've got 4 in here. I have 2 pairs, so you can see there's 2 there. I've only had 1 spawn from these guys, and I've just added them. So what I'm trying to do here is breed the Dark Knights with the Dark Knights and see if I get a large proportion of them being black, but we'll just have to wait and see. Down here, I also have a tank full of these Celestial Pearl Danio growouts. They're such a beautiful fish, and these I actually bred myself, and what happened was the original breeding colony I had 2 males and 8 females. Unfortunately, for some reason, I lost the 2 males, and since then I hadn't been able to breed them, so I had to wait for all their offspring to grow out. And now that they're all grown out, I can actually breed them. I've got a few breeding tanks set up. This is one of the breeding tanks. You can see there's a colony in here. 2 males, 8 females. Actually, there might be less females. There might be 2 males and 6 females. You can see them all here. Such a beautiful fish. I've got 3 groups of these at the moment, so I actually got some eggs out of these guys yesterday. Yeah, hopefully I do have a lot more success with these in the future. Now, in regards to breeding the peppermint bristlenose, I have 3 tanks of them running at the moment. I've got 2 up there and 1 down here. The way I breed these guys is I throw them in one of these tanks. I keep the water at about 24, 23 degrees Celsius, keep the pH and the TDS low, and they just kind of breed for me. In here we have the adults, There's also a few juveniles in here that are leftovers from when the adults were breeding. So there's adults in here, more adults in here. If we come down here, you can also see we've got some more adults. Now, when they're a bit bigger, they kind of lose a bit of their luster. They don't look as nice, but they still look really cool. These guys are very similar to bristlenose. But if you look up here, you can see we have a ton of babies that are just pulled out of a cave. I put these guys in these breeder boxes, keep them in here for about a month, and then I move them into a grow out tank like you saw earlier on in the video. So this isn't a super large batch, but there's probably about 70 or 80 in this batch, and you can see them all here. Now, I kind of wanted to wait until the end of the video to show you guys this, because I haven't really been focusing on doing this in the past 4 months, and all I've been doing with these 6 tanks is throwing food in them and making sure the fish are okay. So in these 6 tanks, I keep all my Corydoras. So you can see down here, I have a bunch of really murky tanks with some corys in here. Now I have Similis, Longfin pandas, Sterbais, pandas, Trilineatus, and gold lasers. I haven't really been trying to breed them at the moment, and I'm going to get back into breeding maybe the pandas and the Similis and the Sterbais, but for the moment the Trilineatus and the gold lasers I really haven't been putting a lot of effort into. But that's just a little disclaimer for why these tanks are a little bit dirty. So if we come down here, you can see these guys are just going to scamper away, but in here I have the gold lasers. There's a bristlenose there, but you can see one of the gold lasers there, and there's a ton hiding underneath that Anubias there. Next door to them I have these Trilineatus, you can see up the back, or false Julieyes. A lot of people call these guys Julieyes. They're not Julieyes, they're actually Trilineatus, but they look very similar. Next door to that I have these panda corys, and it's one random Sterbai that somehow got in here. So you can see those pandas up the back there. Then here we have all the Sterbais. So these are just my Sterbais that I'm going to breed hopefully in the future. Here's the Longfin pandas. So you can see them all here. It's going to be really hard to see any Similis in here, but there's definitely about 8 or 9 adult Similis in this tank. There's just a ton of moss and they always hide underneath it. So that's about everything that's in the fish room at the moment. I really hope you guys enjoyed looking at everything and enjoyed watching this video. I enjoyed making it. It was really cool showing you guys everything that's going on in the room. And yeah, thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.